so we can look at, so we can do a one loop that will check all the horizontals. And we could really break this up into a couple of different methods just to kind of have some talking points. You know, you could check, 4 at a time horizontally. And then you could, basically, all right, so let's see if we can get going here. So let's do public int check horizontals. Okay. So checking horizontal, we're checking for 4 in a row. Okay, so first of all, we would want some kind of nested loop because we want to check all the rows. So, and this is telling me I'm not returning anything, but I'm not ready to do that. So if we had, let's say, a for loop that went through all the rows, length, okay, and then a for loop that goes through all the columns. So the one thing we got to think about is we don't want to go through all the columns. We're going to check four cells in a row to see if they are the same thing. Either all ones or all twos. If they're all zeros, this just means they're blank, remember? So if they're all ones, it'd be 4 golds in a row. If they're all twos, it'd be 4 silvers in a row. But we can't check the last 4 columns. All right, so, or you can't, J will actually be like the starting, it'll be the value on the left. Because then you're going to add 4 to, you're going to do J plus 1, J plus 2, J plus 3. So one way you could do it is to say, because I just kind of said that out loud, J plus 1, J plus 2, and J plus 3. You could say as long as J plus 3, which would be the last value, is less than board bracket 0 dot length. Now what that is, that board bracket 0 is an array of ints. It's basically one row. It's the 0th row. And if I take the length of that, I'll tell you how many columns there are. So as long as J plus 3 is less than the number of columns there are, we're going to be in bounds. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if board I J is equal to board I J plus 1 and board I J plus 1 is equal to board, and I guess I could always just check all of these to 1. Let me do that instead. It's a little bit easier. And board I J plus 2 equals 2, and board I J plus 3. These are all ones. So what's going on there? Oh, okay. So these are 3 in a row on the same row, 4 columns. Excuse me, there are 4 in a row. There are 4 columns side by side. If they're all ones, I'm going to return 1. And so if check horizontals tells us 1, then that means gold 1. Okay. And I'm going to copy this and do the same thing for silver. So I have 2 or 4 silvers in a row. Then I'm going to return 2. Now, if I make it to the end of the loop, which means I've checked every row and I've checked all the possible 4 cells that are beside each other, then I don't have a 4 in a row on a horizontal. I'm going to return 0. Okay, so this method will return 1 if I have 4 golds in a row horizontally, It'll return 2 if I have 4 gold or silver in a row horizontally. Otherwise, return 0. So just to check this, let's do it here. If check horizontals, I'm calling this method below, is equal to 1. Let me just, and this is going to be a print statement. This is not going to output into the game. I'm just going to say gold win. So this is actually going to go to the terminal window. It's not even going to stop the game. Because really we're just kind of troubleshooting this to see if this is going to work. Silver. And so what I got to do is I got to, all right, try to get 4 in a row. All right, so I'll do 1 and do that. There we go. Okay. So, and then that the exception there is old. Clear the screen. But we have it to where it recognizes horizontals. All right, so then kind of similar to that, right? Or the logic's very similar. We're going to do verticals. And then the diagonals are going to be the one we got to spend a little bit of time on thinking about. All right, so. All right, so check verticals. Now, verticals, we're going to be checking 4 in a row in 4 different columns. We're going to pass through all of the columns. So, and I'm still going to let J be my column number and I be my row number. So I'm going to go through all of the columns. And I'm not going to go through all the rows. Let me do something similar if I plus 3 is less than board.length. Okay. Oh, okay. So let's see. Oh, I need to, I think I might need to change these. Okay, so let all of these be J and J. Okay, and then let's talk about what that does. Okay, because the first thing I want to do is check 4 in a row. And this may have worked the other way. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, no. All right, so these do change some in here because I want to, oh, I should have left it. All right, so I, J, and J. Okay, so, but we're still, so this will check all of them, but we need to do IJ, I plus 1 J, I plus 2 J, and I plus 3 J. These are 4 values that are vertically from each other because I is what row you're on, and they are 4 rows on top of each other. Same column, J, the Jth column. And it'll check them kind of different, in a different order, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so then I'll change this same thing. I plus 1, J, I plus 2, J, I plus 3, J. Okay. So just kind of changed it up there. We go through all the rows, but I is never the last 3 rows because I is getting added to go down in rows, the next 3 rows. Okay, so let's try it. Oh, I didn't run it, did I? All right, so in the ACT method, We'll check the verticals. Okay. All right. And again, this is just going to, so boom, 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 boom. All right. Yeah, I think that's got, all right, let me clear this and run it. Here, let's see. All right, run. Okay, the exception was old. Okay, so we have the two methods of how to do it vertically. Okay, so we can kind of split up the other logic into so two more methods. One would be to check, I'll say like, what I call it. I'm even thinking of like slopes. Like if it goes up from left to right, it's a positive slope. If it's going down from left to right, it's a negative slope. So if I were to check the negative slopes, all right, the first one would be 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, and 3, 3. I would check that vertical. Okay. The last one, or so I would have to check those four. Then I could go to the next row and check those four, or say same row, different column. So I could keep checking 4 in a row until the last 4 in a row I could check that way would be 1, 2, yeah, like this. So it would start right here. It would be when the row is 0 and the column is 4 less from the end. So it would be like when I plus 3 is less than the length, kind of what we're doing before. But also, since we're going down, we can only we can't start a negative slope right here, right? We gotta have 4 spaces. So at the very end would be like right here, right? So this would be the last cell to where you can have a negative slope 4 in a row. And that would be, think about it, when it's kind of like combining the horizontal and the vertical, right? Your I plus 3 can't be out of bounds and your J plus 3 can't be out of bounds. Okay, because you're 4 away from the end on the right, you're also 4 away from the end on the bottom. Okay. So I think if we check both of those, so you would have to be in bounds. Yeah. So it's going to be kind of a combination of the two. And then we can just check the 4 diagonals. Okay, so and you can probably tell I have not created this game before. I'm doing it kind of in real time, which also kind of gives you an idea of the thought process. It's not, you can watch somebody create a game and it doesn't always go as smoothly as possible as theirs because they've done it a couple times. So you're seeing me also think through these things. Okay, so public int, I'm going to call it negative diagonals. And really, I think, yeah, I think I could copy this. But let's just read. Okay, so I'm going to do something similar. Okay. I is going to be the row that I'm on. I can never be on a row that is less than or equal to, or so when I add 3 to that row, because I got to go 1, I plus 1, I plus 2, I plus 3, just like before. I can't be greater than the length. Okay, and you can see, like I said, it's a combination because J is going to be the same thing. J plus 3 can't be less. So J, which is the column you're on, if I add 3 to that, it's got to be less than the number of columns there are. And board bracket 0.length is the number of columns. Okay. So we have that. All right, so now, and again, it's, I can even grab these. It's very similar. So the first one would be IJ. Now I'm going in the negative slope diagonal. So the one that is below that in a diagonal would be one row below it, which is I plus 1, but it would also be one value to the right of it, which is J plus 1. Then the next one in the diagonal would be 2 below the original and 2 to the right of the original. And then 3 and 3. So this is how the negative diagonals will work. Okay, I and J are kind of like the starting point, like the top left cell. And then this one is the cell that's below it to the right, the 2 below it to the right, 2 below it, 2 to the right, right? So, or 3 below it, 3 to the right, just like that. So that's how this logic works. I put plus 1s, plus 2, 3. Those are 2s. I think that all works. And I need to return 0. And remember, that happens when you don't have any diagonals. Okay. So that, or we might as well go ahead and do the positive diagonals. So the positive diagonals, let's think, are going to run this way, positive slopes. Well, one thing we could do is, okay, so let's run it. I'm going to let the cell that I'm talking about be the bottom left cell, like that's going to go up. So the lower, or the smallest value that it could be would be like row 3, right? Because if you started at row 2 and you had to go up 4 slots, you'd go out of bounds. But if I started at row 3, remember 0, 1, 2, 3. If I started at row 3 and I go up 4, then I'm in bounds. So I'm going to go from bottom left up, and the smallest row will be 3. And since I'm going to the right, the way that the column will work is just like the previous problem. The smallest column would be 0, and then the largest column would be whenever J plus 3 is less than the number of columns, because I'm going to the right. All right, so let's try this. Positive. Okay, so in the positive diagonals, we have this, and okay, so the number of row, I'm going to start it at row 3. I'm going to go through all of the rows, starting at 3 again, because I'm going up. I can't do 0, I can't do 1, I can't do 2. Right, and you also could do something like as long as I minus 3. Or something is greater than 0 or something like that. You could do something like that. But I'll just start it at 3. And then the columns are going to work the same way as this. So it's going to be all the columns starting at column 0. It can be a left, a bottom left cell. And then I got to stop at 3 columns before the end. All right, so then I just got to get this. Okay, so IJ is the bottom left. So where I'm starting. I and J are like my starting points. I plus 1 would be, that's I minus 1, because it's going to be in a row above it, but in a column to the right of it. So these just change to minuses. This is 2 rows above it, 2 columns to the right. This is 3 rows above it, 3 columns to the right. So really how this changes, the way that we've done it here, is that these change to minus. And this is not an introduction to programming, by the way. We're doing a game, and we're going to turn this game into an AI that's actually going to learn how to play Connect 4 to where it'd be really hard to beat us. But I'm kind of assuming there's a good bit of skill here and understanding. Okay, so let's play it. Let's see if we can get a diagonal. I'll go this way. Oh yeah, 3, 3. All right, I'm gonna go gold, silver. Oh no, okay, and then there. Oh, I didn't call it, did I? All right. And did I call it? I just think I called it negative. Yeah, okay, negative diagonals. All right, so if negative diagonals is 1, and I'll do positives. And remember, we would stop the game. Right now, ours is just printing. We're just checking that our logic works. Okay, so let's see. I'll try this again. I'm gonna get the gold diagonal. All right, so that one works. False. So we basically have a working game of Connect 4 that would print out when somebody wins. So I mean, it's hard to play myself, but let's see, gold. Let's see how. Two golds. I'm just kind of hitting random buttons. Oh, and that did pop up. I got to cancel that because the terminal window, once it pops up, stays up. So, but we've already checked horizontal, so we know that it should work. There we go. Okay. All right. So I'm pretty sure that it works. I think our logic's solid. In the next video, I'm going to try and so right now we have 2 players playing the game. Eventually, we would have 1 player playing the computer, which we would just kind of start with some random moves, and then we're going to try to make that computer player better. Okay, and it to learn how to block and how to play smartly. Okay. Okay. All right. That's it for now.